did she feel when we divorced? And my daughter said, I didn't know my parents.
When Donna Presley says Priscilla has been spreading lies for 50 years, she's not being dramatic. She's not exaggerating. She's stating a fact that the entire world has somehow agreed to ignore because the woman telling the lies had the loudest microphone and the best PR team money could buy. Let's talk about the 3 biggest lies Priscilla Presley has sold to the world. 3 lies that have shaped how we see Elvis, how we understand his legacy, and how we've completely missed what actually happened to his family after he died. Lie number 1, that Priscilla was Elvis's devoted partner right up until the end. That she remained emotionally connected to him, that she cared deeply about his well-being, that their divorce was just a legal formality, but their bond stayed strong. Here's the truth Donna wants you to know. Priscilla divorced Elvis in 1973. She moved on. She had other relationships. She built a separate life. She wasn't there during Elvis's decline. She wasn't present during his struggles. She wasn't the one watching him fall apart. That was the family. That was the cousins, the friends, the people who actually stayed. But when Elvis died in 1977, suddenly Priscilla reappeared as the grieving widow, positioning herself as the person who understood him best, who loved him most, who deserved to speak for him forever. That's a lie, and it's a lie that made her millions. Lie number 2, that Priscilla saved Graceland from financial ruin. This is the big one. This is the lie that turned her into a hero. The story we've all been told is that the estate was collapsing, that bankruptcy was imminent, that without Priscilla's brilliant decision to open Graceland to tourists, everything would have been lost. Donna says that's fiction. She says the financial crisis was exaggerated, dramatized, blown completely out of proportion to justify what Priscilla was really doing, which was consolidating power. Because here's how you become untouchable. You create a crisis, you position yourself as the only solution, and then anyone who questions you looks like they're threatening the very thing you saved. It's brilliant, it's manipulative, and it worked perfectly. Priscilla didn't save Graceland. She took it over during a moment when the family was too grief-stricken and too scared to fight back, and then she spent decades rewriting that takeover as a rescue mission. Lie number 3, that everything she did was to protect Lisa Marie's inheritance. That every decision, every business move, every dollar that flowed through Elvis Presley Enterprises was carefully managed to benefit Elvis's daughter. Ask yourself this: if Priscilla was protecting Lisa Marie's inheritance, why did Lisa Marie die in financial chaos? Why was she struggling with debt while her mother controlled an empire worth hundreds of millions? Why did Lisa Marie, Elvis's only child, the sole heir to everything he built, why did she feel like an outsider in her own father's legacy? And here's the most damning evidence of all. Why did Lisa Marie cut Priscilla completely out of her trust before she died? That wasn't a rash decision. That wasn't anger. That was Lisa Marie, after a lifetime of watching her mother operate, saying very clearly, I don't trust you. I don't want you controlling anything after I'm gone. I want my children, specifically Riley, to have what's mine without you anywhere near it. That's not the action of a daughter who felt protected. That's the action of a daughter who felt exploited. These aren't small lies. These aren't innocent misunderstandings. These are strategic fabrications that Priscilla used to build an empire for herself while erasing the people who should have mattered most. And Donna watched it happen. She watched Priscilla take control of every narrative, every interview, every documentary, every book. She watched her become the executive producer on projects about Elvis so she could control exactly what got said and what got buried. She watched family members try to tell their stories and get shut down, threatened, or ignored because they didn't fit Priscilla's carefully crafted mythology. This is what Donna means when she says Priscilla has been spreading lies, because a lie isn't just saying something false. A lie is controlling reality so completely that the truth can't even get a hearing. For 50 years, Priscilla owned the truth about Elvis. She decided what people knew, what they believed, what they celebrated. She turned herself into the sole authority, the only credible voice, the singular keeper of his memory. But here's what she didn't count on. She didn't count on Donna speaking up. She didn't count on the family finally saying enough. She didn't count on the possibility that people might actually want to hear what really happened instead of the sanitized, profitable version she's been selling. So let me show you what Priscilla doesn't want you to know. Let me show you how she rewrote history, erased a family, and built a fortune on lies that are finally about to crumble. Here's how you steal someone's legacy. You don't just take control of their property or their money. You take control of their story. You become the only voice people hear when they think about that person. And that's exactly what Priscilla did to Elvis. Donna watched it happen in real time. She watched Priscilla systematically position herself as the sole authority on who Elvis was, what he believed, how he lived, what he would have wanted. And she did it so effectively that for 50 years, nobody questioned it. Nobody asked the obvious question: why is the ex-wife who divorced him 4 years before he died the person controlling his entire narrative? Think about what that means. Priscilla wasn't there during Elvis's final years. She had moved on with her life, she had other relationships, she was building her own career, pursuing her own interests. The people who were actually present during Elvis's decline, during his struggles, during the hardest parts of his life were his family, his cousins, his childhood friends, the people who knew him before fame, who stayed with him through fame, who were there when fame was destroying him. Those are the people who actually knew Elvis, not the sanitized public Elvis, not the icon, the real man, the complicated, generous, struggling, brilliant, flawed human being. But when Elvis died, Priscilla made sure those voices didn't matter. She did it through media control. Every major documentary about Elvis, Priscilla had approval rights. Every book deal, every interview, every TV special. Priscilla was either directly involved or had the power to shut it down if she didn't like what was being said. She positioned herself as an executive producer on projects about Elvis's life, which sounds prestigious until you realize what it actually means. It means she controlled the narrative. It means stories that didn't fit her version got cut. It means family members who tried to share their memories were told, no, that's not how we're telling this story. That doesn't work with the brand. The brand, that's what Elvis became under Priscilla's control. Not a person, a brand, and brands need consistency. They need a clean narrative. They need a spokesperson who can stay on message. Priscilla made herself that spokesperson, and anyone who deviated from her message became a problem to be managed. Donna describes family members who tried to speak publicly about their experiences with Elvis. Cousins who wanted to share stories about his generosity, his sense of humor, his struggles with fame. Relatives who had been part of his inner circle and had genuine memories, real insights, authentic connections to who he was. They were shut down, sometimes politely, sometimes through lawyers, sometimes through Priscilla's team quietly telling producers and journalists, if you platform those people, you won't get access to Priscilla, and without Priscilla, you don't have a project. That's how you control history. You make yourself so valuable, so essential, so connected to the subject that nobody can tell the story without you. And once you're essential, you get to decide what the story is. And here's the cruelest part of this erasure. Priscilla didn't just silence the family, she replaced them. She brought in her own people, her own experts, her own authorized biographers who would tell the story the way she wanted it told. She created an entire ecosystem of Elvis content where she was always at the center, always the expert, always the one with the real insight. Meanwhile, the people who actually lived with Elvis, who knew his daily routines, his fears, his dreams, his private struggles, they became footnotes, or they disappeared entirely. This wasn't just about ego, this was about money, because every time Priscilla appeared on a documentary, she got paid. Every time she consulted on a project, she got paid. Every time her name appeared as an executive producer, she got paid. The more she became the only person who really knew Elvis, the more valuable she became. She turned authenticity into a commodity, and she was the sole supplier. But here's what exposes the entire con. Lisa Marie, Elvis's own daughter, the person who should have had the most direct, unfiltered connection to her father's memory. Lisa Marie had to learn about her father through her mother's storytelling. She had to sit through interviews where Priscilla explained who Elvis was, what he believed, what kind of father he was, and Lisa Marie knew it was filtered. She knew it was strategic. She knew her mother was shaping the narrative to serve her own interests. Donna watched the distance grow between them over the years. She watched Lisa Marie become increasingly uncomfortable with how her mother had positioned herself as the eternal keeper of Elvis's flame, because it wasn't about honoring Elvis. It was about Priscilla maintaining relevance, maintaining income, maintaining power. You don't cut your mother out of your trust if you believe she's been protecting your father's legacy. You cut her out because you've seen what she's really been doing. You cut her out because you know that when you're gone, she'll do to your legacy what she did to your father's. Lisa Marie knew, and before she died, she tried to stop it. That's why Riley is fighting now. That's why Donna is speaking now, because the lies have to end somewhere, and 50 years is long enough. Let's talk about money, because that's what this has always been about, not legacy, not honoring Elvis's memory, money, power, control, and the devastating financial reality that Priscilla created for the people who should have benefited from Elvis's success. Here's the picture Donna paints, and it should make your blood boil. Priscilla Presley is worth tens of millions of dollars. She lives in luxury. She's collected consulting fees, appearance payments, producer credits, book deals, speaking engagements. She's built an entire career and lifestyle off being Elvis's ex-wife. Every documentary she appears in, every interview she gives, every time she shows up at an Elvis event, she gets paid. We're talking about someone who has made a fortune year after year, decade after decade, by monetizing her connection to a man she divorced in 1973. Now let's talk about Elvis's actual family. The cousins who grew up with him in Tupelo, the relatives who were there before he had a dollar to his name, the people who celebrated with him when that first record hit, who supported him through the early struggles, who loved him not because he was Elvis Presley the icon, but because he was family. Those people got nothing. Donna reveals something that should be a national scandal. While Priscilla was building her empire, there were Presley family members who couldn't pay their rent, relatives who struggled with medical bills, cousins who needed help and had nowhere to turn. And when they reached out to the estate built on their family name, the estate generating millions of dollars every single year, they were told no. They were told the estate couldn't afford to help them. They were told there were legal restrictions. They were told the money was tied up in operations and couldn't be accessed for family support. They were given every excuse imaginable except the truth. And the truth is this: Priscilla didn't want to share. She had built a system where she benefited enormously, and the actual Presley bloodline got scraps, or less than scraps, nothing. Think about the cruelty of that for just a moment. You're a cousin of Elvis Presley. You grew up with him, you were there when he was nobody. You supported him, loved him, stayed loyal to him through everything. And now, decades after his death, you're struggling financially while the woman who divorced him lives in a mansion and flies first class to Elvis conventions where she charges appearance fees. And when you ask the estate that bears your family name for help, you're denied. That's not estate management. That's systematic exclusion. That's making sure the money flows in exactly one direction, toward Priscilla and away from everyone else. But here's where it gets even more calculated. Donna explains that Priscilla used legal complexity as a weapon. She made the system so bureaucratic, so expensive to navigate, so exhausting to challenge that most family members just gave up. Because if you want to fight for your share, you need lawyers, expensive lawyers. And you're going up against an estate with unlimited resources and a woman who's been playing this game for 50 years. You can't win, so you stop trying. And that's exactly what Priscilla counted on. She built a fortress of legal protections, corporate structures, and financial mechanisms that made it nearly impossible for family members to access what should have been theirs. Now let's address the myth that's been used to justify all of this. The story that Priscilla saved Graceland from bankruptcy, that without her brilliant business decisions, the entire estate would have collapsed. Donna says that's manufactured. She claims the financial crisis was either exaggerated or deliberately created to give Priscilla the justification she needed to consolidate total control. Because think about how that narrative works. If everyone believes the estate was on the verge of failure, then whoever steps in and saves it becomes untouchable. They become the hero, and heroes don't get questioned. Heroes don't get challenged. Heroes get to do whatever they want because they saved everything. That's exactly what Priscilla needed: a crisis she could solve, a disaster she could avert, a story that made her essential instead of opportunistic. So she didn't just take over the estate. She rewrote the circumstances of that takeover to make herself look like the savior instead of what Donna claims she actually was, someone who exploited a grieving family's vulnerability to seize control of a fortune. And the most heartbreaking part of all, Lisa Marie, Elvis's only child, the person who should have inherited everything cleanly, who should have been protected and provided for without question, who should have lived in comfort and security because of what her father built. Lisa Marie died in financial chaos. She struggled with debt. She faced financial crises. And all of this happened while her mother controlled an empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. How does that happen? How does the daughter of Elvis Presley end up in financial trouble while the ex-wife lives in luxury? It happens because the system was never designed to protect Lisa Marie. It was designed to protect Priscilla. And when you build a system to serve yourself, everyone else suffers, even your own daughter. Especially your own daughter. So why now? Why is Donna Presley breaking decades of silence right at this moment? What changed? What finally pushed her to speak up when the family has been quiet for 50 years? The answer is devastating in its simplicity. Lisa Marie is gone. When Lisa Marie died in January 2023, something fundamental shifted. Because as long as Lisa Marie was alive, there was still hope. Hope that she would eventually reclaim full control of her father's estate. Hope that she would tell her side of the story. Hope that she would be the one to finally expose what Priscilla had done. And Lisa Marie tried. She made her intentions crystal clear when she cut Priscilla out of her trust. That wasn't a decision made in anger. That wasn't a temporary dispute. That was Lisa Marie, after an entire lifetime of watching her mother operate, making a definitive statement. I don't trust you with my legacy. I don't trust you with my children's inheritance. I want Riley in control, and I want you nowhere near it. That trust amendment was Lisa Marie's final act of defiance. It was her way of saying everything she couldn't say publicly while she was alive. It was her attempt to protect her children from experiencing what she had experienced, a mother who prioritized control and profit over family. But Lisa Marie died before she could finish that fight. She died before she could go public with everything she knew. She died with the truth still locked inside her. And that's when Donna realized she couldn't stay silent anymore. Because if the family didn't speak now, if they let this moment pass, Priscilla would win. She would continue spinning her narrative. She would continue positioning herself as the devoted protector of Elvis's legacy. She would continue profiting while the truth stayed buried. Donna made a choice, a dangerous choice, a choice that will make her a target. She decided that Riley shouldn't have to fight this battle alone. Think about Riley's position right now. She's trying to honor her mother's wishes. She's trying to manage her grandfather's estate according to what Lisa Marie wanted. She's trying to protect her younger sisters and maintain some connection to the Presley legacy. And she's doing all of this while fighting her own grandmother in court. Because Priscilla didn't accept Lisa Marie's decision, she immediately challenged that trust after Lisa Marie died. She fought it legally. She tried to maintain control even when her own daughter's final wishes explicitly stated that she didn't want her mother involved. That tells you everything you need to know about Priscilla's priorities. This was never about honoring Elvis. This was never about protecting family. This was about maintaining power at all costs. And Riley had to fight her, publicly, in court, against her own grandmother. How do you win that fight when the woman you're opposing has spent 5 decades crafting a sympathetic public image? How do you stand up to someone the world sees as Elvis's eternal widow without looking like the ungrateful granddaughter causing family drama? You can't, not alone. But with Donna speaking out, everything changes. Suddenly there's corroboration. Suddenly there's a blood relative publicly stating that Priscilla has been manipulating and lying for years. Suddenly Riley isn't the villain. She's not the one causing problems. She's the one trying to break a cycle of exploitation that's been going on since before she was born. Donna's accusations give Riley something she desperately needs: validation. And not just validation, ammunition, public support, the truth that her mother couldn't tell before she died. And here's what should terrify Priscilla: Donna is just the first. There are other family members who witnessed the same things. There are former Graceland employees who watched the systematic exclusion happen. There are friends of Elvis who saw Priscilla maneuver into power. There are people who were close to Lisa Marie and heard her side of the story directly. They've all been watching. They've all been waiting to see what happens when someone finally speaks the truth. And if Donna doesn't get destroyed for this, if the public actually listens, if Riley actually benefits from this information, then others will feel safe enough to come forward. That's Priscilla's nightmare. Not one person telling the truth, but a flood of voices, all corroborating each other, all providing evidence, all systematically dismantling the mythology she spent half a century building. This isn't just about family drama anymore. This is about who gets to control legacy. This is about whether strategic opportunists or blood family have more claim to someone's memory. This is about what happens when the person with the microphone isn't the person with the truth. And Donna is saying enough. She's saying the world deserves to know who Priscilla really is. The family deserves their legacy back. Riley deserves to honor her mother without fighting a grandmother who's been exploiting this family for 50 years. This is just the beginning. More truth is coming. And Priscilla's empire, it's built on lies, and lies don't last forever, not when people finally have the courage to tell the truth. If you believe the Presley family deserves their legacy back, drop a comment right now. Share this before it gets buried. Hit subscribe because this story is far from over. More truth is coming, and what happens next will shake Priscilla's empire to its foundation. The lies had 50 years. Now the truth gets its turn.